Days at the Morisaki Bookshop. Chapter 5. The Kanda Used Book Festival took place over the course of a week in late October, and for that week, carts and bookshelves, crammed with used books, crowded the streets in an open-air flea market. The festival was such a success that it surprised me. Book lovers of all ages flocked to the neighborhood, maybe because it was a once-a-year event, but the turnout went far beyond my expectations. You could feel the energy on Yasukuni and Sakura streets. This old sepia-toned neighborhood of second-hand bookshops was now buzzing with activity before noon. It was a pretty spectacular sight. Our Morisaki bookshop joined in too, of course. My uncle and I brought out the cart with all the used books we'd set aside over the previous few days. To our delight, we had twice as many customers as usual come to the shop. There was even a brave soul who was so worried he'd miss out on the sale that he bought a whole cardboard box of our bargain books. As expected, my festival-loving uncle was very much in his element. Apparently, he'd been coming to the festival almost every year since he was a kid. Thanks to that, he could feel his body start to ache in anticipation when that time of year came around. After this, it'll get cold, and the number of people coming to the store will decrease significantly, he said. We need to make enough money now to get us through. It was rare for my uncle to talk like a businessman, but despite what he said, when I lost sight of him for a moment, he was off visiting other shops. Of course, it was up to me to bring him back. On the evening of the third day, I ended work early with my uncle's permission and went out with Tomo to have a look around the rest of the festival. And who should appear then, apparently by accident, but Takano, just as we'd planned. "Oh, what a surprise," he said. "Oh, wow, it really is," I replied. We were lousy actors putting on an obvious charade, but Tomo was so innocent that she didn't seem to notice at all. And with that, one of us said the three of us should walk around together. In front of Tomo, Takano was stiff and tense at first. I whispered to him discreetly, "What are you doing? You look like RoboCop." "I've forgotten how to walk," he replied. Even his voice sounded robotic. Tomo overheard him and burst out laughing. Why was it that all the excitement in the neighborhood seemed to lift our spirits as we walked around? The two of them were waltzing around with such animated expressions on their faces that they looked like a couple. Though, at least in Takano's case, there was another major reason for this. When Tomo spoke to him, he looked ecstatic, like he was running through a field of flowers. The look on his face was so funny that I struggled not to burst out laughing. We bumped into Sabu as we were rummaging through the books at the special booth set up at the main Jimbocho intersection. Sabu was with his wife, and he was holding so many paper bags that he could barely carry them in his hands. Sabu's wife looked so elegant in her perfectly matched kimono that I thought she might be too good for him. But seeing the two of them side by side, I could sense that they had the kind of bond that can only come from years spent together in good times and in bad. The feeling was overwhelming. "It looks like you've bought quite a lot again," I said to Sabu when I saw all the bags he was holding. "He has," his wife said mournfully, giving Sabu a little push from the side. "He keeps on buying more books. Our house is overrun with them right now. Would you mind coming by one day and buying all of them?" "Oh no, please not that," Sabu said, panicking. "Didn't I downsize a bit the other day?" He put his hands together, begging her. Even after they walked away, we couldn't stop laughing. The crowds on Yasukuni Street didn't go away once it got dark. We were still happily walking around. We were on a shopping spree, buying all the books we could get our hands on. "There's an interesting shop over here," Tomo said, and took us to Kintoto Books, which sold grade school textbooks from the Taisho era in the early 20th century. On a whim, I bought a Japanese textbook that cost 2,000 yen. The language in it was so old that it ended up feeling surprisingly fresh. In the evening, as all the stores started to close, we went to the Western-style restaurant inside Sanseido and ate dinner. By this point, Takano was pretty relaxed. He no longer seemed to see himself in a field of flowers every time he was in front of Tomo. It turned out he knew a lot about foreign literature. While we ate, he spoke so easily about the charms of Faulkner, Capote and Updike that you never would have believed how awkward he'd been earlier. Tomo and I were both properly impressed. In the end, it turned out to be a fulfilling and exciting day. Afterward, Takano thanked me and said how incredibly grateful he was, but I didn't see any reason to thank me, because I was the one who enjoyed it the most. Thanks for watching, like, share, comment, and subscribe for next chapter.